Alright, brickers, it's been getting a bit colder recently and the nights have been getting longer, so I thought I would give the garage a little bit of a tidy up, make some space, because recently the brick has been out on the driveway. So what I've done is made some space and I brought the brick inside. In other news, the engine's in there, and we are going to be cracking on with some of the jobs, trying to box off the oil system, the fuel system, things like that. So I've been having a look at the oil filter, oil cooler situation. You know, my usual thing of taking into account ease and reliability and difficulty and time and things like that. And so the plan is, first we're going to make some oil cooler lines, which will be A-AN10 fittings. Before we make the actual lines, what we need to do is bolt up the oil filter, housing, cooler, sandwich plate, all of that onto the bottom of the engine. Now it bolts on to the front of the engine right on the sump. Right, I don't know if you can see this. Where are we? I'll point my phone down here somewhere. No, you can't even see. Just next to the crank pulley. Behind it. There we are. Hopefully you can see that. I've explored a few options. So this is the stock oil cooler where water comes through these lines and then goes to here, and the oil filter bolts onto it, and it cools the oil using the coolant, or heats up the coolant using the oil, whichever way you want to look at it. I don't really like these systems, but here I've got a red block version. So the oil cooler filter, you know, you can put an oil filter straight on there, well, the oil cooler straight on there, but I'm missing the kind of the stud, because that's a female and I need like kind of a male stud coming out of there, giggity, in order to bolt my, you know, sandwich plate on. And then obviously the oil filter needs a stud to screw onto, and that's what I'm missing. But this bolt here, this all bolts onto the white block engine. This is from a red block from a B230. This is actually from me 340 build. So I was hoping just to put that on, and then I could put my sandwich plate on there and then the oil filter. But yeah, I'm missing like a stud. So what I think I'm ending up with, after just having a look at a couple of options, or just removing this all together, that makes this huge bolt here too long. I've tried using like this bolt on this, and you know, all things considered, simplicity, we're going to keep it as stock as possible. So see, this actually has the thing that I need. So where are we? The oil cooler goes on in some orientation. Is it something like this? And then that bolts into the sump, and then you've got this coming off the side here, and then this is where our sandwich plate goes on. So I haven't really figured this out in advance, but never mind. So you've got these two here, which one's smaller than the other. I think it's for the oil filter. That screws onto the oil filter, so we'll try this one. So this slides into here. We've got an O-ring going on there, and then, sorry, I'm not pointing the camera anywhere. So then this screws onto here like so. Then you secure your sandwich plate in place. And then after that, what am I doing here? Is that right? I think that's right. And then oil filter on the end. Whoa. like so. So I think that's how we're going to look. So let's temporarily attach all of this to the underside of the engine, and then we can start thinking about the routing of our lines, our AN-AN10 oil cooling lines. We think about the route and also the length, and then we can go about making them. See here, we've not just got our orientation here, which, you know, whether it's here or here doesn't make that much difference. And then also we've got this, which we can turn as well. So we have technically our two orientations that we can finesse. Just looking at it now, I mean, we need to be, we just turn you around. Got some bits of wiring in the way, but we need to be on these two here. These two blue caps are the AN fittings for the oil cooler. So that's where we need to end up. And that's where we're starting. So could come straight along here and then across and up. We will have the radiator down in this gap here. I'm thinking if I push the oil filter back this way, rotate this here like that, then the lines, oh, don't want to rotate that bit, there we go, then the lines are facing more out in this direction to miss the rad, which will come down here. I can fit this in a moment, so the lines will come along here, or maybe even above if there's space, either above or below here, and then come round and then into the oil cooler. Whether we need to get some 90-degree fittings could be another question altogether. As you see, the way the rad sits actually comes quite far down. That's why it's had a few bumps. Now I've got my AN10-10 line, just kind of offering it up just to see how this, because I'm new to this stuff, just seeing how flexible it is and how it bends. Because this could determine on whether I may need a 90-degree fitting on the oil cooler itself. Just unwinding this beast. Hopefully I'll get both lines out of this length. I think I bought 2 meters of it. From Speeding Parts, obviously. That's where this Hurricane sandwich plate came from as well, and the AN10 fittings. Don't forget to use code DriftBricker for your 10% off. You know the crack. So yeah, we have our line going across here, and this is very bendy line. I'm quite impressed with how bendy it is. The sandwich plate there, we curve around the radiator and then up to here to the oil cooler. So bending this at a 90 I don't think it's not ideal. So I think what I'll do is get a couple of 90-degree fittings for the oil cooler, a couple of AN10 90-degree fittings, so then the line doesn't have to bend so much. We've got a nice bend around here, and that should work out quite nicely. Well, Brickers, as if by magic, we have our two 90-degree AN10 fittings. So what I'm going to do is put these fittings on the end of the hose, and then we will decide how long to make our lines for the oil cooler. Now for the non-PTFE lines, which is what I'm using here. It's a little bit different in terms of the assembly compared to earlier on, last video, whenever it was that I was making the braided line for the PTFE line for the oil drain for the turbo. That's the one, which was PTFE. This is non-PTFE, so it's a little bit easier, a little bit more simple to construct. So let's get on with it.
after I cut the end off the line just to make it nice and tidy, ready to put the fitting on, I did really struggle getting the fitting on. What I discovered the best way was to put a thick microfiber cloth over the end of it and then just lightly tap it on the ground in order to get the fitting seated nicely on the collar. Some people use soft jaws or wood or tape or cloths and things to protect the fitting, but I just go straight in and just clamp it down using the vise, and I didn't have any issues. There was no damage on the fitting. The only thing I did damage is when I was tightening up the fitting with the adjustable wrench, that I did scratch the surface of the coating a little bit, but there was no problems. One thing that is really important, which I did not do here, was to lube up the threads. The first time I did this, it didn't work. The second time I used a little bit of oil on the threads and it screwed all the way in. And that's the fitting fully assembled. So I've got my 90-degree fitting on one end of the oil cooler. So it comes along and then up above this, the rad support through, and then ready to go into my sandwich plate. So I just need to mark the length and then cut it and put the fitting on. That's the fitting there. Where are we? Got my other end on. So that's one oil cooler line done. If I can just zoom out a bit. So we've got our 90 that goes on the oil cooler itself, and then the other end which goes onto the sandwich plate. So now you see we've got our 90. The line goes around above the rad support and then into the sandwich plate. Perfect. Now to repeat for the other one. Right, so we've got our two 90-degree fittings there attached to the lines. We've got a little connector there just to keep the two lines together or apart, whichever way you want to look at it. Goes around above the rad support and into the sandwich plate. We've got two lines done. Oh, I think that's pretty cool actually, because we have pretty much got our oil system locked off. So we've got all the oil cooler done. We've got the turbo oil feed and drain done as well. I don't think there's anything left with the oil system that we still need to do. So that's pretty cool. In other news, the fuel is not locked off yet. I've got a video coming where I mount the fuel pressure regulator, and the lines are AN5, not AN6 on the stock system. So I'm having to try and figure out what I'm going to do there, because AN5 doesn't exist, but it exists here, just not anywhere else in the world. What's next? Water and air. Coolant system is sorted. Everything's basically how it is in the NA car, because the turbo is just oil cooled. And the air, which is an absolute mess. Speaking of the coolant system, check this that I got from Speeding Parts. Absolutely Gucci flexible coolant hose. This is so cool. Really thick, really high quality, but if you see here, see how it's like braided, but there's like slits in it. So it's like super duper flexible. So these are going to replace the old rusty coolant lines that are coming out of the factory oil cooler, and maybe the ones going from the water pipe to the bulkhead to go through the heater matrix as well, because I've got two of these, so I've got a little bit of length to play with. Giggity. Yeah, so that's cool. Another thing we've received from Speeding Parts and one of my other orders, I don't know where anything is, but we've got a mix of Ben's 3-inch
3" for intercooler piping. We've got 45, we've got a 90, we've even got 135, which can go hopefully straight on the intercooler in here. Where are we? In there. I'm going to do a mix of silicone hose and pipe, which we've got over there. Yeah, intercooler piping, a little bit TDC. I've got a plate. TDC? To be decided. TBD. To be sorted. Intercooler piping is not sorted yet. So that's something to play with in another episode. I'm not TIG welding here again, so if I do need some TIGging, it's gonna be sent away to Stellar Performance to weld. We have some other things in here as well to do with the intake, like the to do with shout out DO88 SE. Whoa, this massive 4.5" unit. Look at that, man. Hello. That's what we're going for, you know. So I've got this like massive 4.5". I'm not going to put it on now, but yeah, that'll go straight on the turbo. Again, I'm going to try and find a way to cut this shorter. So this is mainly just for a 4.5" 45-degree bend. So that's going to go straight on the turbo, and then we'll have a straight bit. I've got another bit of here, way too long, but a 4.5" aluminium tube, and then we'll have the air filter after that, which we've got over here. Wait, the ram, I don't know why I've got this silicone on that I had on before, but that doesn't need to be on there. But yeah, that'll go on the end of the 4.5" aluminium pipe. So the intake is going to be sounding amazing. Hopefully it'll look okay as well. I've got a battery tray here, special doubled-in unit, clutch, ECU mess. So yeah, on top of all of this rubbish, to-do list, which I haven't really touched in the last couple of days. Just been kind of running from one problem to another. Anyway, I'm rambling. Brickers, so this episode, what did we do? We did the oil cooler lines. Oil system locked off. Happy days. Have I got like a... Hang on. Let's see if we can actually cross something off here. Cooling system, clutch, oil cooler mountain. I hadn't even written it on. Oil filter sandwich, bolt in loft, whatever. Oil filter sandwich plate, I've already done that. Oil cooler pipes, whee! Fuel system, not done. Intercooler pipes, not done. E-pedal, fuel pump, doubled in. Battery relocation, not done. Cooling system is kind of done, but it's not done. Gotta cut these to size. Ow! So then we'll get the cooling system done. That'll be a quick job. So brickers, you know what to do. Subscribe. I'm gonna keep doing this till you subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.